for live tutorial. And so what that means is we're going to be using Max Essentials, which is basically a visual coding programmer. And we're going to be playing it through Ableton Live 9 Suite, which is going to allow us to unlock the sound in a bunch of different ways. And so to start off, I'm going to give you guys two tools in this first video, two audio effects, which we can use to really unlock the sound. And so once we have Max for Live set up, all of these will appear. We'll be able to see that you can use anything here. And so we're going to go to Places and then Packs. And then under Max for Live Essentials, oops, that's a concrete. Where we go? Max for Live Essentials right here. We're going to pull down Max Audio Effect and then the Buffer Shuffler. So we're going to start here with the Buffer Shuffler 2.0. And the Buffer Shuffler really allows us to unlock the sound in a variety of different ways by randomizing any type of clip we've put in there, whether that's an audio clip or a vocal clip or an actual beat. And so right now I have a percussion beat in there. So this is how it sounds without the Buffer Shuffler, and this is how it sounds with the Buffer Shuffler put on. And so just want to take you guys through the Buffer Shuffler real quick so you can understand everything that's going on. So since it's a randomizer right here, we've got a bunch of different random patterns, which Ableton has preloaded into the Buffer Shuffler. We can choose from a variety of those. We have our gain control here, our total output level, our dry and wet, which is how much of the process signal we're letting through. We have a waveform, which allows us to turn on or off the waveform of this percussion clip that's actually being played through the Buffer Shuffler. We have the length, which pertains to the original amount of the clip that is being played. We can set how much of the clip we want to play. And then we have the steps, which help us control the changes in the beat pattern. And so we can control the steps through this, and then we can also control them through some auto randomization controls we have. So the dice button, which is right here, bottom center, allows us to set the type of random we want to use. And we can see that different types of randoms right here. The auto is obviously the auto setting for that. And so when we change this, we could change the step value here. We can also change the step value or how that step value is played by using these three controls in the middle. The next thing to note is right here. These allow us to play to either mute a step or play it in reverse. That's muted, that's played forward, that's played in reverse. And then we can also set ourselves the different levels of step manually by simply clicking and changing them on the screen. Now, the other thing to note is also this right here enables the auto dice mode. That's another randomizer effect you guys can use. And then the smooth signal basically helps control and allows us to try and smooth out any additions that we might have or any usage of the Buffer Shuffler, which we might want to smooth out as we're playing our clip through it. The other thing to note here is these controls we have on the left-hand side of the Buffer Shuffler. And so the shift as well as the pitch will increase the latency, and that has to do with how well the computer can process the audio signal and convert it from digital to audio. And so it's just to note when you guys are using these, they may affect the overall quality of the clip. And so as I click on these different levels, it allows me to now go in and set these different levels. And so here is where the Buffer Shuffler is great, because I can personally go in, change the stutter or the gating pattern. I can shift the pitch, the amp or the pan. And then the left and right has to do with the Buffer Shuffler auto effect through the left speaker or the right speaker. So if we unhook these, then we can play a different pattern through the left or the right channel speaker. If we hook them, then they're going to play together. The other thing to know with the Buffer Shuffler is that it can, as I said earlier, it can be used for a variety of clips and different types of audio samples. So this is really great for trying to almost hack into any type of sound you guys have and really look at it in a different way, in a different manner. The biggest thing to note, and this will be really helpful for you guys if you decide to use the buffer shuffler, is we'll need to edit it because the buffer shuffler is making lots of randomizations and it actually will overtake our undo edit control in Max, or sorry, in Ableton Live. And so to fix that, we're going to click on this button right here in the top right-hand corner, which is the edit button. And this is going to open up Max for us. And now this is going to allow us to actually see the patching that's going on in the buffer shuffler. So we have the buffer shuffler right here. Right now it's in patching mode, or sorry, presentation mode. We're going to change it to patching mode. So now we come to this screen. And now I'm going to unfreeze this, which allows me to now edit it, and the screen will change colors. So here, if I hit lock, now it's going to freeze. Now, here we go. So when I have this grayer screen, I can now actually edit the different patches. So once again, this is the presentation mode, which is what we had before in Ableton, and this is what the patch actually looks like. So right here, we've got our left and right, our stutter, gate, pitch, shift, amp, and pan, which were the same 8 controls we had right down here. And so to edit these, and we're going to have to do this for every single one, but I'll show you guys the process for the first one. So I'm going to right-click, go to Object, New View of the Embedded Patcher. Now I've got this new view, and this is the actual left, just for the left channel. So I'm going to put this back into patching mode. I'm going to unlock this again. I'm going to right-click on this grid, open up the inspector. Now we're going to go to all. We're going to scroll down all the way to parameter. And where we see parameter visibility, we're going to change to hidden. Now we're going to exit out of this. We're going to exit out of this. And so then now you guys will want to go back in and repeat that for all of the 7 left, so that your buffer shuffler will be all set to use. Don't need to save this for now. And so once you guys are finished with all of that, you're going to want to make sure you come into Ableton and save the preset, maybe something like buffer shuffler undo or something along those lines. And you guys will be all set up to use the buffer shuffler. And now I'm going to take you guys on and show you how the convolution reverb works. So once again, now we're just going to go into a new audio clip. The convolution reverb, as I said before, we're going to find again in packs, places, and then packs, and then we're going to go to Max Audio Effects. If we scroll down a little bit, there's the convolution reverb. I grabbed the convolution reverb pro right here. So once again, we have a clip. Take this off for now. So this. Here it sounds with the convolution reverb on. And so take you guys again through the convolution reverb so you guys know exactly what's going on here. And so on the right hand side, we have our width, our gain, and our dry and wet. So these are our 3 master controls. And so the width turns the reverb into mono. The gain is overall volume that outputs through the reverb. And then obviously the dry wet signal is how much of that signal we're playing. And then on this right-hand side right here, we have these 6 controls. And so we have our EQ, we have our positioning, which is telling us, like, if we want to think of a speaker setup like left, center, right, where exactly in the speaker we might be deciding to play that reverb from. And so the positioning of the reverb, so we can place it left, right, also front or back. We've got modulation, which allows us to either apply the effect. If it's on mod 1, then we're applying an effect before the reverb. In mod 2, we're applying an effect after the reverb. We have the damp, which is the decay and the size are going to affect this. This will change. We see it's also changing the waveform, so it's changing kind of the timbre and how exactly the reverb is being played. And then we have the shape, which allows us to trim the start of the of the reverb sound that we're playing, whatever we choose that to be. And so we can play the reverb in different types, as we see here, and then also different environments. So we've got kind of like two levels on which we can control the reverb, and that's what the shape is relating to on this side. And then within the shape controls, the length can have us kind of turn this into like a gated reverb effect. The cascade is basically there's like a first reverb that occurs and a second reverb that occurs, and the cascade kind of controls how much of that first reverb is played through the second reverb. And then we have the reverse, which allows us to reverse the reverb. And then if we were to toggle with this control, remove onset would trim the sample from the beginning. And then no trim at all, it doesn't trim the sample at all. And then this is the standard setting on remove direct. And so on this side as well, we have the decay, the size, and the pre-delay, which are more controls. Delay, again, relating to like how, and the size are kind of relating to the length of the impulse response. This is what this is right here. Sorry, I was blanking on that earlier. That's the impulse response. And then the size is kind of affecting if we were to turn the size lower, then it would be brighter and shorter. And if we were to make the size higher, then it would be darker and more focused. And then the pre-delay is the separate reverb from the original, separates the original reverb from the sound by milliseconds. And the coolest thing that you guys will want to note about the convolution reverb is that it allows us to play any sample as the impulse response. So these different types of places, so let's say we change to chambers in large rooms, this will have many different settings which Ableton gives you for the impulse response, but I could also go into samples and pull this down and now make this the reverb that the convolution reverb will now play through. So we have it off, it's normal. Then if we have it back on, and I can do that for any type of sample I want. And so this is a really cool way that you guys can unlock Ableton and use it in some different ways. And those are the first two audio effects for now. Next tutorial, we're going to look at some more ways we can make Ableton a better and cooler